the stock market is hitting all-time highs and on the surface everything seems fine, but what if I told you that this is a carefully constructed illusion? A massive economic transformation is quietly happening in plain sight, and it's set to redefine money, global power, and your financial future. While most people are distracted, final pieces are being put in place for a global reset that the powerful are counting on you not to notice. This isn't a conspiracy theory anymore, it's happening right now, and in the next few minutes I'll show you the evidence they are hiding in plain sight. So you see the headlines every day, the talking heads on TV point to the stock market as proof that the economy is strong, they tell you inflation is under control, that the job market is holding up, and that you should just keep putting your money into the same system that's been running for the last 50 years. But does it feel that way to you? Ask yourself, if everything is so great, why does it cost so much more to fill up your car or buy groceries? Why is buying a home a fantasy for an entire generation? Why does it feel like you're working harder than ever just to tread water? That disconnect isn't just in your head, it's the first sign that something is fundamentally broken. The system we've all been taught to trust is built on a shaky foundation, and the tide is coming in. The elites, the central banks, the architects of our global financial system, they know this, and while they project an image of calm control behind the scenes, they are building a new system. A system designed to keep their power when the old one finally gives out. This isn't the Great Reset you might have heard about from the World Economic Forum with its vague talk of greener, fairer future. No, this is something far more concrete and far more personal. This is about rewiring money itself. A structural change that happens once in a lifetime, and it's being rolled out while the world is looking the other way. They're counting on you not paying attention. They're counting on you to be distracted by political drama and the daily noise of the markets. The changes they are making are so profound they would face enormous resistance if the public really understood what was at stake. We're talking about the end of cash as you know it, the end of financial privacy, and a big shift in global power that will leave anyone unprepared in the dust. While this is the real reset and its gears are already turning. To understand where we're going, you first have to understand the system we're leaving behind. For over 70 years, the global economy has been built on one thing, the US dollar. After World War II, the Bretton Woods Agreement made the dollar the world's reserve currency, the bedrock of global trade. Even after the US cut the dollar's last high to gold in 1971, the Nixon shock, the dollar's dominance was saved by the petrodollar system, where oil-producing nations agreed to sell their oil only in US dollars. This gave America what a former French president called an exorbitant privilege. The US could print money to pay for its imports and debts, while every other country had to earn dollars to do business. This system has been the ultimate source of American power for half a century, but today that power is fading. The cracks in the foundation are getting too big to ignore. The era of the dollar's total dominance is coming to an end. The dollar's share of global reserves has been steadily falling, dropping from a peak of over 72% in 2001 to around 58% in 2024. And this isn't an accident for many countries, it's a deliberate policy. The main driver of this change is a group of nations deliberately engineering an escape from the dollar system. This group is BRICS. Originally Brazil, Russia and India, and China and South Africa, this bloc has expanded dramatically. By 2025 it includes major economies and energy players like Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Indonesia and United Arab Emirates. This isn't just a political club, it's a new economic center of gravity. In 2025 the combined GDP of the expanded BRICS nations, when measured in purchasing power parity, has officially surpassed that of the G7, the group of Western industrialized nations. According to some estimates, the BRICS bloc now accounts for around 41% of the world's economy, while the G7 has fallen to around 28%. While the exact numbers are debated, the trend is undeniable. The IMF projects that average GDP growth for BRICS nations would be more than 3 times the pace of G7 economies in 2025. These aren't just numbers, this is a fundamental shift in global power, and these nations are no longer willing to play by America's rules. They are actively dismantling the dollar's dominance piece by piece. How? Well, through a process called de-dollarization. First, they are ditching the dollar in their own trade. China and Brazil are selling trades in their own currencies. Russia and Iran are doing the same. India is buying oil from the United Arab Emirates in rupees. This trend is picking up speed as countries try to shield themselves from US foreign policy and sanctions. Every time the US uses the dollar as a weapon, it gives other countries another reason to find an alternative. Second, they are building their own financial plumbing. BRICS has established new development banks as an alternative to the IMF and World Bank. Even more important, they are developing BRICS Pay, a payment system designed to challenge SWIFT, the network that underpins most international banks transfers. While still in its early stages as of late 2025, it's a clear shot across the bow of the dollar system. This isn't the first time a global reserve currency has faded. The British pound once ruled the world, only to be replaced by the dollar. Before that, it was the Dutch guilder. These shifts are a natural part of history's economic cycles. Each time it leads to a period of massive instability and reordering of global power. We are living through one of those moments right now. This leads to the big question: if the dollar's reign is ending, what comes next? It's not another country's currency. The answer is a completely new type of money, one that has been quietly developed by the very central banks that control the current system. The architects of this new system are in hiding. They are the most powerful financial institutions on the planet. The Bank for International Settlements, the central banks for central banks, the IMF, and the central banks of almost every major country. For years they've been working on a successor to our financial system, and now it's nearly ready to launch. The vehicle for this new world is the Central Bank Digital Currency, or CBDC. Think of our current financial system like an old computer operating system. It's slow, clunky, and inefficient. A CBDC is being sold to us as the shiny new upgrade, faster, cheaper, and more inclusive. But it's not what they don't advertise that you need to worry about. A CBDC is a digital version of a country's currency, but with a critical twist. It's a direct liability of the central bank. It's not a record of money in your commercial bank account, it is the money. This means for the first time ever, the central bank would have a direct line to every single citizen and every transaction. This isn't some far-off sci-fi concept, it's happening right now. As of late 2025, over 130 countries, which represent 98% of the world's GDP, are exploring or developing a CBDC. China is the clear frontrunner with its digital yuan, and ECNI already being used by millions. The European Central Bank is also moving forward with its digital euro project and could be ready for potential issuance around 2029. The official reasons are always the same: to make payments more efficient and bring in the unbanked. But the real story is about capability, the real story is about control. The technology allows for something called programmable money. Let that sink in. This means that the authority that issues it could set rules for how you spend it. Imagine the government wants to stimulate the economy, they would airdrop digital dollars into your account with an expiration date, forcing you to spend it or lose it. Imagine they want to discourage certain behaviors, they could program the money so it can't be used to buy things they disapprove of, like too much gasoline or certain types of food. Think about negative interest rates. Right now they are hard to enforce because people can just pull cash out of the bank. In a cashless society built on CBDCs, there's no escape. A central bank could apply a negative rate directly to your digital wallet, slowly draining your savings to force spending. Then there's the biggest change of all, end of privacy. With CBDCs, every transaction you make could be recorded on a central ledger. The anonymity of cash would be gone. This opens a door to a terrifying level of surveillance and social engineering, where your financial life can be monitored, analyzed, and controlled. Now, in the United States, there has been pushback. In July 2025, a bill known as the Anti-CBDC Surveillance State Act passed the House, which would prohibit the Federal Reserve from issuing a retail CBDC to the public. However, research into a wholesale CBDC for use between banks continues. At the same time, the Genius Act of 2025 created a federal framework for privately issued but heavily regulated stablecoins. This creates a two-pronged strategy. Let private companies build the customer-facing system while the government maintains control from the top. It's a clever way to introduce the principle of a new digital system under the banner of private sector innovation. And if you're getting value from this and you're starting to see how the pieces fit together, take a second to subscribe. This monetary reset is not happening in a vacuum. It is the financial front in a much larger geopolitical conflict. The shift from a unipolar world led by the US to a multipolar world with many centers of power. For decades, the G7 nations wrote the rules, but as we've seen, the economic balance of power has already tipped. The expanded BRICS bloc isn't just an economic alliance, it's a political one designed to challenge Western dominance. Their powers come from controlling the things the world actually needs. The BRICS nations now control a huge portion of the world's most critical resources. They account for a staggering 44 to 45% of global oil production, with China as a member of the bloc dominates the mining and processing of rare earth minerals, which are essential for everything from smartphones to military hardware. When you control the real world goods and the energy that powers the economy, you eventually get to decide what currency you get paid in. This is why they're so aggressive about de-dollarization. It's not just about economics, it's about sovereignty. They are challenging the very institutions that have upheld the post-war order, calling for reforms at the UN Security Council and building their own parallel financial system. This all plugs into the idea of the Fourth Industrial Revolution, a term you hear a lot from the World Economic Forum. It describes the fusion of the physical, digital, and biological worlds, AI, robotics, IoT, and you guessed it, digital currencies. The global elite sees this tech wave as the engine for their reset. They believe it can be used to solve big problems like climate change, but it also provides the tools for unprecedented centralized planning and control. control. The same AI that can optimize the supply chain can also be used to monitor a population. The same digital ledger that make payments efficient can also be used to enforce a social credit score. We are watching a global chessboard being set. On one side are the established Western powers trying to patch their old system for a new era. On the other is a rising coalitions of nations building a parallel system from the ground up, using their economic growth and resources control as leverage. And you are caught in the middle of this titanic struggle. The money in your bank account, the value of your savings, and your financial freedom are all on the table. The tectonic plates of global power are shifting, and the resulting earthquake will reshape the entire economic landscape. The only way to survive is to understand what is happening and position yourself accordingly. So the game is changing, the money is changing. What does this mean for you and your family? Well, it can feel overwhelming, like you're a pawn in a game played by kings, but now that you have this knowledge, you are no longer just a pawn. You can see the board, you can anticipate the moves, and you can start making your own. This isn't financial advice, this is a framework for thinking. This is for entertainment and educational purpose only. First, you have to understand the difference between currency and money. What we have in our bank accounts, dollars, euros, yen, that is currency. It's a government IOU. And as we have seen, its rules can be changed overnight. It can be printed into oblivion, and now it can be programmed and controlled. This leads many people to seek out assets that have historically served as money because they have intrinsic value and exist outside the system. Gold and silver, for example, cannot be created out of thin air. They have no counterparty risk, they can't be programmed by a central authority. In a world moving toward total digital surveillance, owning tangible assets becomes a powerful act of financial sovereignty. And don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.